Welcome to Holistically Speaking. I am Morella DeVoe, your host. Our mission at Holistically Speaking is to be the avenue through which the voices of holistic health reach you at the time you need it most. And our show today is the continuation of last week's show. I'm joined by Stephen Gonzalez. Welcome again.
Thank you.
So last week we started a really interesting conversation about the top 10 reasons why women are not in the relationships they want. If you missed that, you're going to want to perk your ears up. We're going to recap what the top 5 reasons were last week, and then we'll continue with reasons 6 through 10. I'm sure you'll be really interested to take some notes. I know I learned a lot, and you got me thinking all of last week. So to start with the top 5 reasons that we talked about last week, just to recap a little bit. The first reason that you told us about was confusing desirability with femininity. The second one was confusing obsession with devotion. Number 3 was not operating on your intuition. 4 is confusing allowing it to happen with making it happen. And number 5 is using masculinity, that yang principle, as a survival strategy.
Yes.
And well, I'll just mention for our viewers, if you missed that show last week, we're going to be posting it on YouTube, and you can definitely catch that because we talked about some really juicy stuff that we're not going to be able to recap today because we will not have enough time. So let's get into the next 5 and dive right in, because I know we got really into it last week.
Yes.
So let's look at number 6 through 10, and you can maybe write down some notes so you can keep track of what we're talking about through the next half hour. So number 6 is confusing need with love. This will be a really good one. Number 7 is thinking or feeling that femininity, your yin principle, is not safe.
Right.
Number 8 is that you are inconsolable. Very interesting. Number 9, trying to carry a partner's pain. And number 10, that you do not feel equal to a man. All right, so let's jump right to it. Number 6, tell us about women confusing need with love. What's that about?
Wow. Well, that's a big question. I think. Well, first of all, I think need is confused with love in our culture and agreement. So you enter into this relationship and you don't agree with them anymore. Okay, well, we're going to split up, or somehow you fall out of this need thing that they were fulfilling something and they don't fulfill it anymore. So the transaction falls apart.
Yeah.
And so you fall out of love. And so for me, in my experience, is love is freedom. It's giving the other person freedom to be exactly who they are. So
can you? I feel like I'm tracking with you. I'm wondering, what are some of the needs that women confuse with love? Like, how are they needing this partner?
So if the woman is, like certainty, if she kind of addictively demands certainty, she can put that on the man to, basically she's kind of hiring the man to lift her out of her anxieties, right? So certainty can be one of them.
Right. You know, what's coming to me is the notion that you're not okay. If you weren't in the relationship, you wouldn't be okay.
Right.
So if someone has that feeling that, oh my God, I would die if I,
Yes.
or, just feeling that you wouldn't be okay if this relationship ended, that speaks to the possibility that you're in it more from need than from love. Is that accurate?
Right. Maybe trying to get worthiness out of it, which can never happen.
Yeah. Validation.
Yeah.
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 It's interesting because I think that there's a tendency, this is all kind of old social constructs for where women feel that they're not okay if they're not with a man.
Right.
and that there's something wrong with them. That
Right.
and you even might pick it up where if a woman is single, then what's wrong with her, or is that kind of along the lines of
Certainly, if you
women?
feel that and you're trying to have a man fulfill that for you, then it's an energetic transaction. Whereas we've been talking about yin and yang are complementary and opposite, so there's like this natural attraction. You don't have to generate attraction.
Right.
It's just natural. So anything other than that is going to be transactional, and you have to put effort into it and maintain it. So it can take, so that need thing can take all kinds of forms for a woman.
Yeah.
Prestige, security,
The financial
meaning, purpose.
Validation that she's a desirable woman. Yeah.
Yes.
And even, I actually have friends who will own outright saying, I just don't like being alone. I can't be alone, so therefore I would rather be in.
Right, and I don't, there's no judgment about this because we're all on our journey. But so if you can't face aloneness, which is kind of a biggie, right? Because aloneness is akin to the abyss.
Right.
And we do a lot to stay out of that place.
Yeah.
Right. And but the man can't fulfill that for the woman. I mean, and neither can the woman fulfill whatever the man's got going on in that.
Exactly.
But since we're focusing on women right now.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that maxim, I don't know if it's a saying or a quote for that: if you love someone, let them go, and if they come back to you, they're yours. That sort of thing, where that willingness to let them go.
So there is, I think there's an appropriateness in yin asking yang to be yang. So I think that maxim can be taken too far into like this passive kind of, you can ask for what you want.
Yeah.
Right? But there's kind of a addictive way to ask for what you want, and kind of a energetically appropriate way to ask for what you want.
Yeah.
You can ask for what you want in freedom.
Right.
Right.
In freedom. So the balance of asking for what you want, but also allowing them to be free to be who they are.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think of maybe if the man is cheating, the woman can be in the place of, hey, I understand, I actually want a monogamous relationship, and I'm real good for you that you're finding your happiness, but like this isn't working for me, so I'm going to move on because actually I want a monogamous relationship. But if she gets into all the drama around that, then that's expressing like he's not fulfilling her needs in some really basic level. So is that more clear? Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about number 7, and we might circle back on some of these if
Please circle back if needed. They all circle on each other anyway.
They do. So number 7 is the idea or notion that femininity or embodying the yin principle is not safe. What do you mean by that?
Well, first of all, even in our culture, it seems like women, femininity is downgraded, and intuition, which is another big factor of femininity, and receptivity, they just seem to be lesser than in terms of virtues or principles. So already, just from a cultural point of view, it's not safe to try to move into that, right? So if you have a family pattern where the father is dominating the mother, even if it's not like outright abuse, but just kind of this dominating spirit, then it's just going to look to the children, especially the women, like, yeah, it's not safe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, so culturally, energetically in the family. Also, I think if the woman is pregnant and you're in the womb and she doesn't want to be pregnant, She's thinking about an abortion. She's worried about anything that's going on emotionally for her that's sort of antagonistic to the pregnancy. Well, being in the womb, you're also going to energetically soak up, wow, you know, yin is not safe.
Right.
And it can even start at conception, too. If the woman is forced or she's bargaining somehow with sex.
Yeah.
So right off the bat at conception, that can be yin is not safe.
Yeah. And it's also associated with weakness as well. It's that,
Right.
you know, embracing that, you know, feminine principle is weak. And so
Right.
you have to be, you know, I think in the last few decades, women have becoming over masculine, you know, like too masculine in order to fight off that
Yes.
perceived weakness, right?
Exactly. So the idea is, well, Yang's the strong, Yang's the dominant energy. I get kicked around with this yin energy. I'm going to switch.
Right.
I'm just going to come out of the closet and be Yang,
Yeah.
so to speak.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work well with the woman's body,
Right.
because she's designed more for yin.
Right. And really what we're talking about here is not one being above the other, but actually having them be in balance.
Yes, be in balance, be complementary. You know, when you look at the sperm and the ovum's like thousands and thousands of times bigger than the sperm. So I tend to think, and plus the ovum has everything for life, and the sperm just has this little message. I don't know if I told you this last week, but in my mind, I see Buenos Aires at midnight with all millions and millions of people with the lights turned off, the power out, and just one man in the distant power station just flipping the switch, and all the city comes alive. And to me, like, that's the power differential between the both. Yin is incredibly powerful. In fact, I think that's why Yang sometimes wants to dominate it. I think there's this kind of sense of, ooh, this is, you know, it's like the ocean. It's like it's going to envelop me. And so, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what I imagine also, just like you were saying, you know, the individual's personal and family story, there seems to be also a trend culturally, some ethnicities or cultural backgrounds tend to have a stronger kind of a yin.
Right.
I don't know but actually women being more yang, you know, it's like I would think like the Latin American woman compared to the Asian woman or the African American woman, they're all different.
Yes, they all have those different balances.
Yeah.
In my experience, in kind of Latin American, Hispanic, Mexican, to me it seemed like real matriarchy, but it was kind of a yang matriarchy.
Exactly.
The man went out, earned the money, came back, and the woman managed the money, kind of gave him an allowance.
Yeah.
And then the man was basically that puer eternus we spoke about.
Right.
Basically a boy. So he'll go out and get drunk, maybe have mistresses, but the matriarch's at home over the empire.
Right.
And
right. All right. So let's talk about number 8. So we can cover all of them before we run out of time. So number 8 is when you are inconsolable. You are inconsolable. Tell us about that.
Well, I find that a root with a lot of women is this idea of not being able to face inconsolability or unbearability. That those are some of the monsters under the bed that haven't come up. And so, and most of the women that are my clients are heartbroken, right? And it's difficult for them to get in touch with that heartbrokenness because they feel like if I get in touch with this heartbrokenness, I'm going to be inconsolable or I can't bear it, right? So you have to address the idea of inconsolability and unbearability to have access to just a degree of how much your heart is broken.
So this one I'm having a little trouble with.
Sure.
I'm having a hard time grasping the idea. So I guess what I want to get into, so once the heart's broken, what is it that you're supposed to do?
Well, find out about it first, right? Because anything that's not brought to light doesn't have, it has no possibility of resolution. So once you get in touch with being heartbroken, then you can sit with the question of, okay, now that I know this, what's the way? I think of submitting this question to your subconscious, or sitting in the question.
Yeah.
Because the universe, and I think just the natural forces in our body, I mean, when you cut yourself, you naturally heal.
Yeah.
So there's this principle in our subconscious that once you submit a question to it, it starts bringing forth the answer. So that might be different for different women.
Yeah.
But then, like, these pragmatic steps
Right.
start
Yeah.
coming into mind.
Yeah. And so what I guess now it's starting to come to me where what you're saying is maybe that a brokenhearted woman who isn't acknowledging that and isn't taking care of their own heart, then will act out of that hurt in the next relationship. And, you know, maybe, and here's, you know, I often say this, that there are a lot of women who are man bashers out there. It's like, you know, the heart's been broken and now it's all men are bad.
And eye rollers too.
Right. Eye rollers. So is that what you mean by the inconsolability?
Yes, it can come out in those passive aggressive ways. And so, you know, going back to the inconsolability, that's kind of like a lid on the brokenhearted. So if you're brokenhearted, you're not going to walk around letting yourself feel that if you don't have the wherewithal to start resolving it. And one of the lids on top of that is the idea that this is inconsolable, that this can't be fixed, right? So it's almost like you have to address that idea before you get to it's like beliefs cover wounds.
Right.
And so you have to address the belief before the wound can
you can't create
manifest itself.
Right. Because you can't create or you can't create the relationship you don't believe exists.
Right.
So if from past hurt you've made conclusions that, you know, this is relationships are horrible, relationships are hard, men are this or that, then obviously there's no possibility for creating what they actually want.
If your father wanted a boy instead of a girl, that's a pretty big deal, right? And that's one of those deep things. It's kind of hard to get to, but once you tune in, and you may see that that's true, how deeply you were wounded over that.
Yeah.
Or just didn't want a child at all. That's not exactly a blow to yin, but it's kind of somewhat of a blow. But definitely if he wants a son instead of a girl.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so we need to heal those wounds. And we're each responsible for healing our own wounds.
Yes.
So let's talk about number 9, trying to carry a partner's pain. And I think a lot of people fall into doing this or trying to do this without noticing. So tell us what this looks like.
Well, the man or the husband, the partner having pain, and the woman just trying to carry it for him, always trying to fix it for him, you know, talk about it and carry it, and feeling like it's her responsibility to care for his pain. And that goes into discerning between support and carrying somebody's pain, which are two different. That's probably the discernment there.
Very different,
Yeah. What's supportive and what's actually trying to carry somebody's pain.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I had a client recently talk about her anguish about her husband's, you know, having some issues in his relationship with his family, and she acknowledged that she was feeling like it was her job to be sure that he was happy.
Right.
That it was her job to, you know, kind of make sure that, you know, nothing happened, that, you know, not...
Exactly.
It's like, it's not your job. You know,
Exactly.
he needs to... You could be a support, but that's what you're talking about, that that discernment.
Yeah. It's sort of like a lack of differentiation of our sovereignty, like we talked about. You know, you're not really... So support would be, how can I support you? And hearing the other person say what that is. Yeah. As opposed to feel like you're in anguish, it's my responsibility. If I love you, your anguish has become my responsibility. Right. It's kind of I think the thinking there. Yeah. We don't like to see people we love suffer, right?
Right. Yeah, and so you want to fix it for them.
Yeah.
And so that's what you're talking about in terms of women trying to carry that pain or
Yeah.
take it away from their partner.
Right.
So what do you see that tends to create when women put themselves in that role? What is it that they're fostering in
I think
their
the men
relationship?
resent it. Yeah, the men will resent it because probably because they resent their mother, and that's kind of a mothering energy as opposed to partner energy.
Right.
You know, if it's a 1-year-old and they really can't do things,
Right.
well then, you know,
Yeah.
it's appropriate, but it's not appropriate for.
Right. That's so interesting, just putting it in that lens, that really distinguishing when you're taking on a mothering role with your partner where it really isn't appropriate.
Yeah.
And it's part of your nature to be mothering, but you need to allow your partner.
And in our culture too, because so many fathers have either inadvertently or premeditatedly have abandoned their sons, they haven't really had that rite of passage
Right.
from boyhood to manhood. So there's a lot of boys,
Right.
in essence.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so there's a lot of mothers and a lot of boys getting together
Right.
to do that
Yeah, in partnership.
in partnership.
Yeah. So our last reason is that you don't feel equal to a man. So number 10 is you don't feel equal to a man. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, that's going back to the issue of sovereignty, that everyone has a right to their own thoughts, their own feelings, their own body, that this is me over here, that's you over there. And that sovereignty, in my thinking, everybody's on a journey, right? And it's that, and a journey's a mystery. So I have no right, nor do I have any capacity to really make any comment about your journey. Nor, you may ask me for support or what I
Right.
think or whatever. And so that discernment about people having their own journey to me, that's where the equality is. And that collapses a number of ways with people, again, going into,
Yeah.
I have a right to make some kind of comment on your journey. I have a right to fix your journey. I have a right to try to control your journey. This idea that I know better.
Yeah.
I know better what.
Well, and what I'm wondering is in this statement of women not feeling equal to men, I'm sure a lot of people will hear this or say, how dare you? You know, of course we feel equal to men. So what are the kind of underground or obscure ways in which women aren't feeling equal to men or to their partner specifically?
One thing that comes to mind is deferring, you know, where the wife or the partner defers to the man.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like this automatic deferring mechanism of having it his way.
Yeah.
So that's a real subtle one, where what you're feeling, what you're thinking doesn't have the same status.
Yeah.
You know, you can look at it psychologically, or you can kind of, there's a lot of psychological kinds of remedies you can use for this. And again, we were looking at things energetically. So telescoping it back to what makes these two energies equal, right?
Yeah.
That they're opposite and complementary, and that yin's never going to become yang,
Right.
and yang's never going to become yin.
Right.
And it's so like that, it's that confusion of trying, you know, on a bigger energetic scale, it's all confusion about what those two are.
Yeah.
And when you and so you know something's wrong intuitively, energetically, but you can't put your fingers on it. And that's why I like looking at it through an energetic lens, because it takes away all the moral, religious, political connotations.
Yeah, so the way that I'm maybe understanding this, and you correct me if I'm wrong, is maybe it goes hand in hand with that need versus love, where maybe a woman is feeling that her partner, or the man that she wants, is somewhat superior to her, and so they're they're better and they are raised because they are in this relationship. And so is that somewhat...
Well, need in itself is already one down, right?
Yeah,
Even if you have a
exactly.
need, you're already acknowledging one down. They have something that I don't have. I need it, and I want it, and I can't
Right.
survive without it. So you're already...
Right. Well, we're going to have another show to talk about all of this, because we're going to talk about, so what, now that we've shared with our viewers,
Right.
all of these things that a lot of us women are doing unconsciously, you know, some more overtly than others, what do we do about them?
Yes.
You know, how do we stand in our sovereignty? How do we show up as this full, beautiful feminine principle, right?
Nice.
So, just to wrap up today, is there something that you feel is missing in the, you know, overview of these 10 reasons?
Probably a lot. You know, these are the 10 that came to mind. Any missing from the 10? Is that what you're asking?
Or thoughts about these 10 or something else that you might think we didn't touch on?
All of these 10 are happening within a bigger context. So these are sort of like the facets on the diamond, so you can pull back. And I think maybe when we have this other talk, it'll be more telescope back about the spiritual journey itself.
Yeah.
And what are those energetic principles? How does the energetic principles play into your overall spiritual journey?
Yeah.
So that's what's coming to mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because obviously all of this is happening as part of a larger story, in a
Yes.
larger context of the totality of your
Right.
life.
And this could have been 20,
Right.
but they're all interconnected. They play off of each other. Some are psychologically based, some are physically based, some are
Yeah.
emotionally based. So yeah, there could have been a
Wonderful.
lot of top 10s.
Yeah, we could definitely keep going. So I just want to show our viewers, I want to show you how to get in touch with Steve if this is something that you know you need to work on and you need some help. You can find Steve at StephenGonzalez.com or via email at Stephen@StephenGonzalez.com. So I'm really looking forward to next week and talking about all of the different things that we as women can do to, like I said, you know, be more in our sovereignty and understand what's the whole context in which we're showing up to be in relationship. So thank you so much for joining me. And
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. I look forward to sharing more with you next week. And as always, if you have a topic that you're interested in that you'd like for us to cover, email me. The email is right on the next couple of screens. You'll see how to reach me. And let me know what you think. I'll see you next time. Take care.